We'll call to order the East Bank Stadium Committee meeting for Wednesday, November 16, 2022. To my council colleagues, good to see you. It feels like it's been 18 hours, barely.
Slept last night.
Yeah. It was, Thanks for being here. I know we've got a contingent of some 8 council members out in Kansas City for National League of Cities, and at least a handful of council members have been watching these on TV. So I appreciate you guys making it in today after committee meetings and council meeting the last couple days. As a reminder for council members and the public, we have a robust committee web presence set up. If you Google Metro Council East Bank Stadium Committee information, you can get to a page where we've got all the information from our last 7 or 8 meetings, whatever it is, that has all the PowerPoint presentations. We've got the information organized by topic and date. I think it becomes the best repository of information about the proposal. We also are starting to populate answers to questions that council members have posed to the administration. There's a document on the webpage there, and council members continue to send the rolling questions as they come to you to Ms. Godin in the council office, and they get submitted to the administration once a week, and answers we get back about once a week and get them posted. We're pretty up to date on the website right now. The other thing I want to make sure folks know is after tomorrow, we'll be through the slate of scheduled informational meetings, and then we'll move on to 5 public comment sessions around the county. The first one will be at East High School next Monday at 6 o'clock, November 21st, and then we'll have the Thanksgiving holiday, and I don't remember the exact dates for the other 4, but the next 2 weeks we'll have another 4 meetings in Hermitage, Antioch, Bellevue, and North Nashville. That information is also online. Please let your constituents know about that. Please attend. I think the logistics for those meetings, consistent with the idea that the committee isn't taking a vote or a position, I'm going to have a slide deck that is try to keep it to 5 or 10 minutes, where it's going to either be entirely or mostly slides from presentations that have already been given to us. And trying to give the Cliff Notes version of what's been through here. I think most people who will come will be generally familiar, but there will be probably about a 10-minute presentation to start, and then there's not going to be any Q&A, and instead it's going to be public comment. We'll have a timer, and I think the default will be 2 minutes per speaker. If we hit a location where there's fewer speakers, maybe we'll kick it to 3 minutes to give people a little more time, but if there's a lot of speakers, we'll keep it to 2 minutes. And so we'll do that 5 times in different places. I've had some conversations with the Fair Board chair today we've got an agreement that we're both committed to not overlapping Fair Board meetings about 50, 75, I don't know how many $1 million racetrack and the $2 billion stadium. I think there was some information out today that would put the first public comment session for the racetrack on the same night as our public comment session for the stadium. And I think the chair is going to make it so we don't have overlap. And so we're coordinating on a schedule through January. It could be that every night for a couple weeks in December, there will be a meeting about the racetrack or a meeting about a stadium. But that's the position we find ourselves in. So hopefully their schedule is out and we can all get clarity about that, because I know we all care about that. Did you have a question, Councilman?
Yeah.
Chair, just real quick, what is our output, or what are we going to eventually submit to the council, or is there going to be a presentation or just a program review? This is what we found out to the council. How do you envision that?
Well, So I guess I got myself just sidetracked. After the 5 public comment sessions that we've got one more meeting of the committee scheduled. I want to say December 14, here in the chamber. That one's at 5:30 because I think there's an ARP committee meeting the same day. And that on our agenda is listed as discussion. And I've tried to remain agnostic as chair about what happens that day. I've alternatively imagined that we get to that day and we all feel like, wow, we covered it. Like the website is robust, like anything a person could want to know, go check out the website. Or I've already heard a couple different topics from a couple different members that really aren't in the scope of what we've looked at so far. And it could be that there are members that say, that's great, but here's a couple more things. And I know we're going to be pushed on vote. Another meeting will have to be after the holidays. And I plan on whatever emerges from the discussion of the body. At that point, we'll have to decide whether we have more meetings on more topics. But there was never going to be, to your question, an output from the committee. We're never going to vote on legislation. I think what the vice mayor and I had in mind is that if we were going to vote as a committee on it, it would make the goal of trying to objectively gather information maybe be a little more difficult because people would be angling for whether we were going to end up for or against in the committee. So the regular committees, standing committees of the council will obviously vote on the piece of legislation, but this committee's job is just to be a portal for the public and the council to gather and accumulate info.
Yeah, and I got that, and I really appreciate that. I didn't know if there was a fact finding that says these are the summary of facts that we see and envision as important to the scope and how we see it. Not voting, but just presentation of our interpretation of what's going on.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we put?
We can move that. I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah. Why don't we put a pin in that, and then after we're done with the presentation, say let's talk about that a little bit more because I hadn't considered that, but if the committee feels like that's a thing we should do, or the body feels like it would be helpful, then we should talk about it. So let's talk about it at the end of the meeting. All right. So the main attraction today, number 2 on our agenda, economic impact presentation. We've got Butch Spearden from the Nashville Convention and Visitors Corporation, and good to see you again, Mr. Spearden, and thanks for coming to talk to us today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for inviting me. And first, let me say thanks for the due diligence. This is a big deal, and it does require a lot of thought, research, evaluation. So I applaud the work you're putting in, and I don't envy the amount of time that has gone with that. But I am glad to be here. In case you're wondering, we are pretty supportive of this opportunity. We view the enclosed stadium that's being presented as sky's the limit. Enormous opportunities for Nashville. Nashville's current prominence and demand for the city could not be higher. 11 years in a row, we have been named a top destination in the world. And I think about that. 11 years in a row, top destination in the world by major national and international publications, from New York Times to National Geographic Traveler to Travel and Leisure. So we are on the global stage. We've built a reputation to the point that we literally can book just about anything we want, major events, festivals, concerts, sporting events. But we don't want more, just to have more. We can and should be selective, and in my humble opinion, we deserve to be world class. Admittedly, our current success has come with growing pains. Let's identify that up front. But the results of the success are beyond question and far outweigh the growing pains. Our growth in sales tax and property tax that serves public Public Works, roads, schools, police, we're generating that revenue. Arguably a better quality of life for Nashville residents, world-class dining. We have restaurants that were, one was just named best restaurant in the country by Food and Wine magazine, and 2 of our restaurants were on New York Times best 50 restaurants in the country. We're hosting world-class events like the Grand Prix, like the NFL Draft, like the NHL Draft and Awards next summer, and the NHL hasn't put those 2 together in 17 years. But because of Nashville, they wanted to bring those back together. And of course, our annual events like New Year's Eve is returning as a 5-hour broadcast on CBS, and CMA Music Fest. And I could go on. Most of those are free in our own backyard. We now have world-class attractions like the National Museum of African American Music, the Nashville Zoo, and Cheekwood. They're just examples of better and expanded offerings. Jobs and corporate relocation because of a strong brand, our reputation as a city, and the exposure we have gotten globally. We now have a city where our children actually want to come back to Nashville after college and go to work. When I moved here, we were all lamenting that the brain drain as everybody left. That's not the case. So we're not only getting our families back, but we're getting a desirable workforce that wants to move here. And our local and small businesses are flourishing. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention air service. We have more service and we have more affordable service. Over the course of the pandemic, Nashville International Airport, BNA, moved to be the #1 mid-size airport in the country. Next step is being considered a major airport. So one of the few airports in the entire country that actually grew during COVID. And we are well positioned for the next step. This proposed stadium, in my opinion, is that next step. We totally agree that the current lease agreement is open-ended and not favorable to local taxpayers. It was a one-sided deal when it was created, but it was also what had to be done to lure a team out of Houston. We fully support shifting the burden and the debt to dedicated revenue streams. I'm here to talk about the impact on an enclosed stadium and what it would have on the tourism economy and how it will benefit the city as a whole. I am not an economist, so I want to put that out there. I did minor in economics at Vanderbilt, if that counts for anybody, but I wouldn't hire me as an economist. And I'm not tone deaf to the growing pains. I understand there are problems with tourism on Lower Broad, but the value, as I said, far outweighs the pain. And we are working with the city to create regulations to rein in that party. It's a very small percentage of our business, but it's a unpleasant percentage of our business, and we do need to get our arms around it, but we're working on that. And we wholeheartedly support regulations that protect the East Bank overall development. So if this moves forward, we need to think now about the things we can do so that that development doesn't look like Lower Broad. And Lower Broad can and should be a unique asset to the community, but this is a different neighborhood. And we can be smart and we can protect that development if we all work together. I know our city faces critical needs for schools, roads, and more, and we're here to generate that revenue. We've done a pretty good job of growing the pie as an industry and as an organization, but I just would defend us. We don't decide how to spend it. We only generate it. We believe the opportunities of a new stadium will import more sales tax revenue to help fund city services and drive property tax and hotel tax. I want to particularly emphasize that you all, Nashville is our client. You've been our client since the 1970s. Predates me. I know that would be hard to believe, but I've been doing this a pretty long time. With our contract, we market and sell Nashville. We book events, conventions, market leisure travel. We market and promote the city as a destination to generate economic activity. We always put Nashville first. The benefit of an enclosed stadium is an investment to the city, not just the Titans. And we believe, as a matter of fact, that the upside of a new stadium is more of a benefit to the city than to the Titans. In one instance, most of the big events we could chase, they're not going to pay rent. The Titans aren't going to benefit. Yeah, they'll get some sales tax and they'll get some concessions, but it's a cost to them and a benefit to the city. As our client. We try to give you honest advice and recommendations with Nashville as our focus. That is our job, and that is our expertise. We have nothing to gain by misleading you about this project, and we have no ulterior motive other than advocating for Nashville. And probably and possibly our biggest sin over the years is over-delivering. We've outkicked our coverage on many years. We have exceeded expectations. I'm not apologizing for that, but the growing pains have caught us because we have done so well as a destination. And our results were driven by a community-written strategic plan that, as I said, is well overachieved. We don't need to stop our growth. We need smart growth. We need to better manage our success and our growth, and we want to be part of that conversation. But we also need to continue to invest in ourselves and believe in ourselves, and we totally believe we can do both. Without having to experience the growth of Atlanta, an enclosed stadium will enable us to compete with cities like Atlanta and also compete with Indianapolis and New Orleans and other cities. From my conversations around the country, and trust me, cities have taken note of just the conversation. Matter of fact, most people out there think this is already approved and probably under construction. But the conversations that my peers and my competition are having is it Indianapolis or Atlanta or New Orleans worried? The Indianapolis Star called and literally wanted to do a story. Is your intent to take business from Indianapolis? Don't want to disparage them, but ultimately my answer was absolutely. If we can't impact Indianapolis, then we haven't done our job. So hopefully they maintain a rotation. But yeah, we're coming after Indianapolis, New Orleans, Atlanta, and anybody else that stands in our way from being a successful international destination. I mentioned our track record. We've exceeded the goals of our contract year in and year out, except for the COVID years, on every key metric since 2003. Hotel rooms sold, visitor spending, visitation. As I said, we're paid to do our job. We have an incredible team. We have an incredible industry that is as cohesive as any place in the country. We work together, and we achieve great results together. Tourism has been undeniably an integral part of the growth and success of this city. Colin Reed and I spoke to the chamber this morning, and they readily admitted the work we have done on branding the city has made it much easier to sell this city for corporate relocations. Our major event strategy was intentional. In 2003 and 2004, I mentioned we had 140 community leaders spend a year and a half developing a plan that we got behind. Major events were the first strategy to drive demand for this city. It has worked. It's given us a reputation where we landed the 2019 NFL Draft, and we should have landed the World Cup, and it is every bit of my intention to show FIFA that they made one hell of a mistake when they left us off the list, even with their uncertainty about stadiums. We do events better, we do it different, and we do it with music. As I said earlier, we have a global reputation. We also have a historic track record of success. I want to use 3 examples. The arena, obviously successful. The stadium, the first time around, the public voted. 59% said build it. And the Music City Center. Music City Center has already, just in the last 3 years, given over $100 million back to the city. 3 times the city decided to place major investment in itself to generate economic activity. Each time it's paid off better than we ever could have imagined. Bridgestone Arena, and I was here for those fights. The arena now ranks first in the world for concert sales by Polestar, hosts the CMA Awards, the SEC basketball tournament, and of course the Nashville Predators, one of the most successful buildings in the world. Annual economic impact in 2019 was $676 million. Relocating the Oilers changed the way the country looked at us. And on the MCC, when we built the Music City Center, criticisms from out-of-town experts, even some faculty at other universities. Nashville's not a destination. Conventions are dying, and the city will have to bail it out. You may recall, as I said, we had an out-of-town expert come in. He and I had a debate. He tried to compare us to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I got a little incensed. He wasn't right. It wasn't fair. And actually, he was just dead wrong. He said projections of how much money the center would make would never materialize. He said Nashville's estimates were unrealistic. The center would never bring in 1 million new visitors and $700 million of economic impact. He was wrong. In just its first 3 years, the center generated $1 billion in direct impact for the city and nearly 2 million attendees. It has generated a total direct impact of $2.75 billion since it opened. We're the number 6 meeting destination in the country, according to a third-party planner. When the center was approved, we were maybe in the top 20, but we were nowhere near the top 10. We've been the most successful destination in the country based on hotel performance over the last 10 years, and one of the best performing markets in the country coming out of COVID. And as I mentioned, the center has returned actually $103 million to the city since 2019, including an agreement to provide $10 million next year. It's easy for the critics to criticize when they don't have to answer for it, when they're not boots on the ground. They don't have to be here in 3 years or 5 years and stand up and go, I was wrong or I was right. We sell the city every day. We're accountable for the results, good and bad. I stood here in front of you when we had to talk about cherry trees. Not one of my prouder moments, but we answered the call. We've always been there to speak up, regardless of the issue. And one of the other criticisms I've read is that the stadium would just displace business that would come already. So let me address that. Our hotel pipeline is literally full. There are 7,600 rooms, either under construction or in various planning stages to come about. It's not our place to make these new hotel properties successful. Not my concern, but it is our job to make sure the city maximizes the ROI on the return. If we don't drive more business to this city and these new hotel rooms come along, then occupancy will drop, rates will drop, and tax collections will drop. We've already seen signs of occupancy starting to decline, and we know that rates will follow that, and then revenue for the city. To think people will come anyway is a bit of a, misnomer. By that logic, our organization and the entire tourism industry should stop selling. We don't need to go out and market this city. They'll come anyway. We should stop booking conventions, stop recruiting events, and stop promoting the city. By that logic, the zoo should never have to worry about adding another exhibit because people are going to come anyway, or do all the other things it's done in the last 15 years to make it one of the top destinations in this city. By logic, and I'm a bit facetious, Disney should never have to add Epcot or Animal Kingdom. Why would they do that? That would just pull people out of Disney World. By that logic, Vegas should never have added another hotel or casino, or an arena, or a new enclosed stadium. The logic's not rational. And another point on the displacement argument, of the 16,000 season ticket holders, 2/3 live outside of Davidson County. So 10 times a year, we get that out-of-county money that comes in here and spends money with us. They could choose to stay in their own counties and their own states, but we would rather have them here. And we are a destination city for concerts and the NFL. Just on the opening game for the Titans this year, for the Giants. Giants have not had a winning season in 6 years. There was no reason for anybody to think they were going to be any good this year. There were about 10,000 Giant fans here to kick off the season. They came because it was in Nashville. They didn't come to follow their team necessarily. They came to have an excuse to come to Nashville. Same with concerts. People are flying from all over the world to come here for a concert. They could have picked any city in the world. If you've been paying attention to the chaos around Taylor Swift's announcement, She crashed Ticketmaster yesterday. But adding 3 shows in Nashville, that's roughly 150,000 tickets. All those people are not living in Davidson County. They're going to come spend 2 and 3 nights. Some people will come from across the world and go to all 3 of her shows, but they're going to spend their money in Nashville. The Grand Hyatt told us today, the minute they went on sale, they started filling up. So they expect to be sold out for her dates. Competition is knocking on our doors every day, looking to steal a piece of our pie. We don't take that for granted. We need to continue to evolve. Everyone around us is trying to be the next Nashville. The reality is we're starting to max out on our ability to sustain our level of growth. This past summer, hotels began to complain at us. Don't feel sorry for them, that's not my point. But for the first time, they saw demand drop. And what they were expecting was the same thing they've had for the last 10 years. 4-night minimum, max rate, sold out. They neglected the 5,000 rooms that opened during COVID. So the supply already has had an impact on our occupancy and our rates. They can no longer demand 4-night minimums and higher rates. Some of that will be good for us as a city. But that new supply that just opened since 2020 represents 15% of our current supply, and so you're looking at another 20% in inventory coming online. It illustrates that we need to continue to create demand. And I hesitate, but I want to remind you all that we don't have the typical demand generators of our competition. We don't have beaches, we don't have mountains, we don't have gaming, we don't have theme park, we don't have really strong business travel like a New York, a Chicago, or a Dallas. We don't have any of the things that should make us successful. But we have created our own demand through our brand, through our events, and through our marketing, and it has worked. So as I said, we need to continue to find ways to invest and create additional demand. There's something to be said for the 10 cities, 10 NFL cities that have built dome stadiums. Think about that. 10 cities out there of varying sizes have built dome stadiums. I don't know of any that have regretted that move. 6 of those cities have done it twice. I'm really sure none of them would have done it a second time if it was a bad move. Minneapolis, Houston, Dallas, Indianapolis, Detroit, and Atlanta have all built dome stadiums, enclosed stadiums twice. And if Indianapolis and Detroit can do it, we can do it. If it were a bad idea, as I said, they wouldn't have done it the first time, certainly not the second. Plenty of detractors, but I don't know of any city that regrets having done that. And I don't like comparing ourselves to other cities because I think we stand on our own merit. But as I said earlier, Atlanta, Indianapolis, and New Orleans should be concerned if you all move forward in this direction. As it is, we're running out of places to hold events. We're missing out on hosting events in the colder months. Weather in general continues to impact existing events. Garth Brooks is the most recent example in all the various years where the CMA has had to evacuate the stadium, go into the concourse, and now they're taping their TV special at 1 a.m. in the morning. It doesn't work like it should for them. And recently, you may have read where CMT took their award show to Austin. Pains me when we lose anything. We work as hard as possible, and we looked at Belmont, we looked at Symphony Hall, we looked at Municipal, we looked at the arena, we looked everywhere. There were no venues in this city for CMT. And the biggest reason, just to be clear, this show is now moved to a CBS network show, so CBS moved it to the spring. Those dates in the short window caused us to not have an opportunity to keep that here. We don't want to let that continue, and an enclosed stadium could have answered that. Opportunities are created by conventions, concerts, and events. Our downtown campus is the envy of other cities and seals the deals when bidding on major events and recruiting large conventions. I can tell you, as much as I hate losing FIFA, the event director called us a couple days after. He said, "I need another reason to come back to Nashville." So can we find some ways to partner in the World Cup in 2026? So we're going to find that opportunity with them. The commissioner of the NFL, we had an event the Saturday night before one of the home games, and it was actually at 5th and Broad, and he said, I'd never seen Broadway from this end. And he just nodded his head about Nashville as an opportunity for the NFL, and you can trust that I was relentless on the Super Bowl words in his ear. But if there's such a thing, we have the perfect package. It has been intentional. We fought hard for where the arena is. We fought hard for where the convention center is. We didn't want to do a build it and they would come. We wanted to feed the beast. We wanted to feed our hotels, our restaurants, our attractions, and our live music venues. Within walking distance, we have all of those assets like no other city can compare. An enclosed stadium lets Nashville play bigger than its size without fueling the sprawling growth like Atlanta. I definitely don't want to be another Atlanta. I care about this city. I live in Nashville. Developing the East Bank with the stadium at the heart relieves a lot of the pressure on the west side of the Cumberland, on downtown. It gives us an opportunity, as I alluded earlier, for a better planned campus for major events. We can take some of this gridlock and move it in a planned environment. Supersized conventions, in particular religious groups. We were recently talking to Chick-fil-A. They thought they might need an enclosed stadium. They don't at this point, but it's that opportunity to do bigger type conventions with higher end clients. SEC Sports, Music City Bowl, is likely on the final end of its contract if we don't find a way to up our game. The college football playoff happening in 2026 or sooner is going to change the landscape and change the smaller level bowls or make them obsolete. Nashville needs to think of its rightful place in the sports landscape and the potential to host college football playoffs and championship. I mentioned the Super Bowl. One is not enough. And if we renovated the current stadium, we would likely get one. But there's no way we would ever be considered for a rotation. We deserve to be in a rotation. No commitments from the SEC or the NFL. They are very scripted on any of their answers. But the inclination and the conversations have been there. In kind of some breaking news, and one of the things that we believe in is if we're going to start to talk about something new, and we did this with the Music City Center, we should go out and kick the tires. Is there really an appetite for Nashville out in the community? So this morning I hung up the phone with the co-CEO of WWE and WrestleMania, and they verbally committed to us that they would love to bring WrestleMania to Nashville in 2027. You may or may not be a WWE fan, but let me share this. It's a 7-night-in-a-row event. It reaches 1 billion homes in 57 countries. They are the #1 most followed sports brand over socials. They are the #6 top 10 sporting event brand behind Super Bowl, Olympics, and some of those. And in Dallas, most recently, they had a $206 million economic impact and 156,000 people over 2 nights for the main event. It's CMA Fest on steroids. It's the equivalent to 2 or 3 CMA Fests in 1 week. Don't ask me to explain it. But it is valuable, it is big, and they've had their eyes on this market for quite some time, and especially after SummerSlam and the job the Titans did delivering that event to them. But it reminds me of the Music City Center, and we went out and we started selling that building before it was approved. And we made it very clear, we are here on a wing and a prayer. We've never put this city at risk. But there is enough demand that people are interested. We booked 3 groups before the council ever approved the Music City Center. And we booked 1 million room nights before it ever opened. You have the same level of commitment from us if you approve this. We will make it happen. And as part of that reaching out, I took the liberty of contacting some of the most influential people in sports. Peter O'Reilly, the Executive VP of Club Business and Events for the NFL. I'm not going to read it all, but as we experienced with the 2019 NFL Draft, Nashville is a first-class major event city and destination. A new state-of-the-art stadium in downtown Nashville would add another strong pillar to an already terrific host market for future NFL events. Commissioner Sankey from the SEC. A dome stadium in Nashville is certain to attract the highest profile national collegiate events and will enhance the SEC's future in Music City. WWE. They put their money where their mouth is. Nashville has exploded as a cultural center in the United States and as the land of opportunity. WWE looks forward to hosting many events in partnership with the great city of Nashville at the proposed enclosed stadium. This quote was given to me about 3 weeks ago, so I want to make that clear on their behalf. The Academy of Country Music, the Academy of Damon Whiteside is their CEO, and they just moved their headquarters from LA to here. The Academy of Country Music has become known for holding its televised award show in NFL stadiums. We will bring that event back to Nashville. Live Nation, arguably one of the two biggest concert promoters in the country. Rick Franks, the president of Live Nation Entertainment. An enclosed stadium provides the next level of opportunity and in particular offers the opportunity for major shows to occur in the winter months and during the NFL season, which provides an enormous boost when needed most. Those words could not be stronger. Winter activity and other activity when the Titans are away is hugely important for us. And we look forward to that opportunity. AEG, the competitor of Live Nation, Gary Gersh, the president of AEG Touring. This will be a game changer for the entire state. Craig Jackson, told you there is something for everyone. Chairman and CEO of Barrett Jackson Auto Auction. The city of Nashville is a world-class destination that would be incredibly attractive to our tens of thousands of bidders, consigners, and guests. I'll add, our team has frequently visited the Nashville area to find a venue that would suit our auctions, and to date, we have been unsuccessful in securing dates that would work in Nashville. It's like great, they have been bothering us for over 5 years. Nashville's MSA employs 126,000 people in our industry, 2.6% more than in 2019. We want to keep those people employed, and we want to continue to drive their wage. That level of employment doesn't happen by itself. 2022 was a record year in hotel rooms sold and hotel tax collections. Think about the majority of the country was recovering from COVID. We set another record. We generate 31% of all the visitor spending across the state. And we're first amongst all counties in visitor spending. As a result of taxes generated by tourist activity in Davidson County, the state has calculated that each Nashville household saves $2,112 a year in state and local taxes that they would have had to pay otherwise. Visitor spending in Nashville is now estimated at $20 million a day. And we have averaged 20% annual growth in this industry in hotel tax collections since 2011, including COVID. There is a little bit of a down year that pushes the percentage up, so I will acknowledge that, but incredible growth over the last 11 years. October 2022 was the best month in the history of the city for rooms sold, more than 900,000. And for the first time in history, monthly hotel room revenue exceeded $200 million. In 2010, 1 penny of the hotel tax was worth $4.5 million. This year, 1 penny is estimated to generate $20 million to the general fund. We're confident in our industry and its ability to generate revenue, but we need to invest to keep the momentum going. Cities do not stand still. They either move forward or they go backwards. A quick look back before the Oilers relocated means I'm old. Memphis and Birmingham were chasing the NFL. Nashville was nowhere on the radar. Take a look at Nashville, Birmingham, and Memphis today. Nobody is talking about Memphis and Birmingham in any significantly positive light. I love both cities. I love my counterparts in both of those cities. And just in the last couple of weeks, two major hotel developments that Memphis definitely and desperately needs pulled out. I wish one of our hotel projects would pull out. We could use the relief, but those cities went the complete opposite direction. So I just make that point of you're either growing and investing and moving forward, or you're going backwards, and it's a lot harder to recover when you've gone backwards. When you're a state without an income tax and your economy relies on sales tax, we need to drive sales tax, and we need to drive it without increasing the rate. We describe it as importing sales tax, and we like that. We like that because it's good for Nashville, and obviously it's good for our industry. But you do that by increasing opportunities to increase spending and import sales taxes through visitors instead of burdening local taxpayers. We are finalizing an economic impact report that we partnered with the Titans on through Tourism Economics, which is a subsidiary of Oxford Economics. I haven't really finished going through it to validate and verify and be comfortable, but we will be sharing that report with you guys in the next week or two. Just haven't been able to get through it. A few preliminary highlights of that report. It's estimated that a new enclosed stadium would create $34 billion in economic impact through 2051. Out-of-town stadium visitors and visiting teams are significant drivers of new revenue for the local economy. In 2019, 388,000 out-of-town visitors, along with visiting teams, spent $67 million at local business during their stay in Nashville for Titans home games. Let me repeat that. 388,000 out-of-town visitors spent $67 million locally just during Titan home games. The enclosed stadium would also bring in millions of dollars of revenue from these mega events. Assumption is the city would attract a mega event every 2 years. I believe we can do better than that. Examples: Super Bowl, Final Four, college football playoff, WrestleMania. We're on the short list to host World Cup of Rugby, men's and women's, 2030 and 2031. So those aren't even in the mix here. It's not display spending, it is new spending, and it is higher end customers with disposable income. I'd like to close by just reiterating and emphasizing we're a sales tax-based economy. We have to generate revenue from somewhere. The alternative, we pay for renovations out of the general fund. We can't develop the land around the stadium, and you won't generate the new taxes that we believe we can. We're missing an opportunity. The upside, we have the opportunity to relieve the general fund of this obligation and create a world-class demand generator for Nashville. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You end up taking several big events and move them out of the gridlock of downtown. It's not about either or, either the stadium or vital public services like police, roads, schools. The city can and should do both. Our industry has been and wants to be a part of that contribution to our community. But what you can't do is take the stadium money for other priorities, and I hear it a lot. I know Mayor Barry's husband wrote an op-ed. Why don't we just take this money? The state is not going to give us $500 million for something else. The hotel community is willing to invest, but invest in their own ROI and help the city along. And the Titans in the NFL, we lose that $800 million. Those revenue streams, that's $1.9 billion, almost the total cost of the facility. It won't exist without the enclosed stadium. And our industry is putting our money where our mouth is. And we voluntarily taxed ourselves. We got on a phone quickly. We had multiple Zoom conversations. It was virtually unanimous that if we have the opportunity to do something this unique and this impactful, that while there is a risk at how we're pushing the hotel tax, the ROI potential far outweighed the risk, and we were unanimous in our support of moving forward to this. We have also offered, we have a bit of a reserve with Metro, and we've offered to tap some of those dollars for initial infrastructure costs. So both as an organization and as our industry, we are willing to step up. That's how much we believe in the payoff. And think about Nashville in 1995, before the arena, before the stadium, before the Music City Center. I hear the comments, I miss the old Nashville. I miss some of it too. I miss Rotiers. I was a regular at the Hermitage Cafe in the mornings, not so much at night. But I don't miss the Greyhound bus station on 8th Avenue. I don't miss the strip joints on 8th Avenue and behind. I don't miss the surface parking lots that were Sobro. I don't miss that. No offense to Red Lobster and Pizza Hut, but when I moved here, Red Lobster was named Best Seafood Restaurant, Pizza Hut was named Best Pizza. I'm sorry, we can do better. And
Don't diss Red Lobster.
I wish them well. We're a different city, and we're a better city because we invested in ourselves. And again, I appreciate your thoughtfulness, your deliberation, your including us. I know it's not an easy decision or easy discussion, but I hope you will approve this in the future for the good of Nashville and the opportunity for us to succeed without having to just sell out completely.
Is that it, or you?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Let me ask two questions I know you've heard before, just to get the discussion in public. I mean, I was with you until the Red Lobster thing.
Sorry.
So the first question is, and this is really just asking advice. The context is, the way downtown has become largely unlivable for locals, with businesses moving out, downtown arts organizations having patrons saying, I don't like coming downtown anymore. I think there is widespread agreement, and we were hearing it from your organization earlier in the year about the party vehicles, that we as a city has sort of lost control of the monster we created, good monster. And certainly in the body, we really want to be able to have more control, and we haven't come up with a way that we can do it from here. And I hear a lot of wondering about whether that loss of control for locals, the loss of wanting to go downtown, is going to spill over to the other side of the river, and we'll just expand that zone. And I think we're all interested in ideas, suggestions, ways that we can have a fire break. Like, if there's got to be an area we're not in control of, let's not expand it. Do you have any suggestions about that?
Yeah, and thank you for asking that and bringing it up. So two things. First, we're in complete agreement. And it's a very small percentage of our business that is impacting and giving us a black eye and impacting our public local perception. So on the proposed stadium side, I would say we have the ability to ask NDOT to eliminate that from routes that those vehicles can go on. We have the ability to upfront eliminate outdoor speakers except for special events. So we can put the regulations, the guidelines, and the controls through the planning department and NDOT, and probably through traffic and parking and traffic and licensing, and we should protect ourselves. But what I might add to that is we need to do the same thing on Lower Broad. If Fort Lauderdale and Panama City and South Beach and Daytona Beach can find ways to take their city back, we can too. We are 1,000% behind you, with you. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to get bills passed and trying to create some momentum behind this. So I think we definitely can protect the East Bank, and that should be a mandate before you approve this, if you approve it. Second, then we need to turn our attention to fixing this problem that we have that is going to have a negative impact on a lot of things going forward at some point. It's impacting us a little bit now, but the bigger impact is coming. I think I answered your question.
You did. And then the second question is another one where this is just reflecting a thing I hear from a fair number of people, and there's a tension between two talking points, and I think I heard both the talking points in your presentation. One is, we had no leverage as a city in the 90s, and so we signed up to a lease that was lopsided and created a bazillion dollar, $1.8 billion obligation. So, we need to do better this time. And then the talking point that's in tension with that is that Nissan Stadium was a success. And I know there's, especially when I talk to just regular working people, constituents, the notion that Nissan's a success, Nissan Stadium is a success when there's supposedly a $1.8 billion price tag associated with it. It doesn't feel that successful. And I'm just wondering how you think about the tension between those 2 points.
Great question. So first thing I would say is we had to stick our neck out to sign a deal with the Oilers. I mean, that was, if you were going to succeed in that era especially, they were pretty one-sided. And if you knew Steve Underwood, he was a tough attorney. So he cut a deal on behalf of Bud Adams. The next piece, or next part of my answer is that stadium was the last stadium in the country built on the cheap. I mean, we literally built it for less than $200 million in some prefab concrete. So we didn't put the infrastructure into it that maybe it should have had 22 years ago, and we did the best we could at the time. The real issue is the burdens on the taxpayers, and that's what I'm uncomfortable with, and that's what I love most about the proposed plan, to remove this from the general fund and put it on dedicated revenue streams with the Titans on the hook for upkeep, overruns, and anything else. So we built the stadium on the cheap. We got lucky. Memphis was supposed to get this team, or Baltimore, not us. We probably outlived its usefulness in terms of what we paid and what we got. But the financing, we didn't have the wherewithal in 1995 or 96, whenever we did that, to be as creative as we are now. But I would probably argue that where we are as a city today gives us this opportunity to do it different. The state wouldn't have given us $500 million in 1995. So we're a different city at a different place. And when I say the success of the Titans, 3 nights of Taylor Swift, SummerSlam, George Strait coming back, Ed Sheeran, you name it, the music. The CMA Fest would have probably left Middle Tennessee had we not had that stadium to save it, because I was on the committee. I got kicked off the fanfare committee because they were talking about leaving, and that happened to get out into the public. So we've done great with what we had. But now we're 22 years into this, and we have some issues, and we can do a better deal for the city. So, again, I hope I answered your question.
Thanks. I saw Councilmember Porterfield, and then Johnson, then Druffel, then Roten. Councilmember Porterfield.
Thank you so much, Chair, and I also share in your indignation with the blasphemy against Red Lobster. Those Cheddar Bay biscuits are delicious. But I had two things.
I only said it as best seafood in the country. I didn't say it was bad. Something on record.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. So you mentioned that you all had some savings or something you could dip into to help with the infrastructure. So how much can you cough up from the kitty to help with the infrastructure?
Well, we've committed some dollars to the Speedway. So taking that away, we have indicated that there's about $10 million that we'd be willing to allocate out of our Metro Reserve to help cover some initial costs out of the gate.
Is that a firm 10 million, or is it negotiable?
Well, I'd have to ask Kelly how much is in the reserve.
Okay.
My estimate is there was around $30 million, and we've committed 17 to the Speedway. So I was saying 10, not to deplete it completely in case there's another COVID, flood, tornado,
Understood.
Theme park closing. I could go on and on about the obstacles.
Thank you. And then I just have one more clarifying question. You mentioned NDOT can regulate streets that party buses can't go on. Did I understand that correctly?
NDOT, through the Traffic and Licensing Commission, can designate routes. Like they have said you can't go by schools and churches, and they've said you can't be on Lower Broad between 4 and 6 p.m. during rush hour. So I'm taking that to mean the answer is yes, they can.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Councilmember Johnston, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Porterfield asked, she got to me about the $10 million, so thank you for clarifying that. So when you talk about the hospitality group putting their money where their mouth is, and you are taxing yourself, and you're coming up with $10 million, I see a value in that because you are going to get a return on your investment, right? You're going to sell more hotel rooms. You're going to, all of these things. What I would like to see, and what I'm failing to see here, understanding the benefit of getting out from underneath some current liability that we have, and taking advantage of other revenue sources and one-time funding from the state and this, that, and the other. What I'm failing to see is Metro's return on investment to our general fund outside of, I think it's like up to $25 million or something as it trickles down. Everything over that continues to go into these different buckets for capital, expenditures needed or maintenance and all those things. So it's, again, just paying for itself. Do you see a path, and this may be for just anybody that's sitting here, maybe Ms. Flannery, do we see a path with the way this is trickling down? Because these are some massive revenue streams, and potential to be very massive revenue streams, where we can actually see a return on investment to where we have tens of millions of dollars coming in of unrestricted funds to the general fund that we can put towards our own infrastructure needs because we're way behind, or affordable housing, or name the litany of things that we need to invest in.
Great question. So first, there is 1 penny of the hotel tax that goes to the general fund. So this year, that should be $20 million that our industry has taxed ourselves and giving back to the city. Then my real answer would be on the property tax side. If you looked at the property tax rolls in Sobro pre-Music City Center, we weren't generating much. Now, if you go look at what the JW Marriott is collecting or paying in property tax, there's a significant amount of revenue that our industry is paying now because of the investment that you all made in the city. I see the same opportunity on the East Bank. We're generating no property tax and no sales tax. So we need to get the property tax because Metro gets all of that. And then we got to do a better job trying to find our way into the state because the state gets most of that sales tax, and we've got to figure out a way to get some of it back, more of it back.
Well, just to clarify, the hot tax, that goes towards paying our debt on the $760 million. Is that correct?
There's 1 penny that just goes to the general fund today.
Existing hotel occupancy.
Existing hotel tax.
So there's additional. So I'm lost.
6% hotel tax today.
Okay.
3 goes to the the convention center. 2 funds are marketing. 1 goes to the general fund, and then there would be this new tax.
The additional that we got. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, I've got Councilmember Truffle, Roten, Gamble next.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. You talked about a lot of these great potential with NFL, et cetera. Can you sort of help us define or delineate those that would definitely go away if we don't do something versus the upside. What is the, I know this is not a given, but I think it's hard for us to understand, first-class stadium, what are we going to get? What is the incremental component versus what could potentially lose? Can you give us a little bit more defined perspective and trusting, of course, this is somewhat of a judgment. Thank you.
So a renovated open-air stadium versus an enclosed stadium, the difference is probably in the $20-30 billion range. For example, you would get very likely one Super Bowl, and they would say, you're cute, we're gone. If you have it enclosed, we have had the conversation that we meet the criteria for a regular rotation. NFL is as cryptic as any organization in the world, so they're not going to give me anything I can say concrete. But if you read between the lines, we're an attractive destination for them, and they want to find 4 or 5 cities and rotate. They want to get out of this business of one-offs. College football playoff, not coming here at all without a roof. Final Four, for obvious reasons, you're not going to play basketball outside. WrestleMania, we have a verbal. It's contingent on your approval. So they won't bring that event here. And they sold out SoFi Stadium in less than a week for next year, to give you the idea of the demand that has. So it's billions in lost opportunity, which does put people to work, most of that money will be spent outside of the East Bank campus. I probably should have said that earlier. That's the magnet, but the bulk of the hotels, the restaurants, the entertainment is going to be somewhere else. So they're going to be spending money throughout the city, and that's the goal. That's our goal.
Just very quick, what's the booking time horizon for something that you're talking about? Because clearly, if some of it's coming up, are we going to be too far behind to get some of this in the initial stages, or where do we look in this? Thank you.
Well, it's a great question. Pretty typically, 5 years is the shortest. And that's one of the reasons we've started conversations. We're not counting our chickens before they hatch. We're not running out selling something we don't have, but we've got to get ahead of the curve. We've got to figure out and at least whet the appetite. And maybe most timely, where we know college football playoffs will change in 2026. There is every reason to believe they do something in 2024. And we at least need to know what we're doing. So if we have an opportunity to be in the conversation, we're there, because it's a long runway. I have submitted forms along with the Titans to the NFL for the Combine, the draft, the Pro Bowl, and the Super Bowl. They sent those out about 4 or 5 months ago. We said yes to all of them, and they are pretty much 26 or 27 through 2030, 32. So they're starting now to see who's interested. They're starting their work, but 5 to 7 years in advance is the window of success.
Councilman Roten, if I can just ask one quick clarifying question first. But sometimes I hear people get confused when you're talking about the difference between the two scenarios, enclosed versus not, and you said perhaps a $20 to $30 billion difference. Sometimes I hear people think that you're talking about $20 to $30 billion in revenue to Metro, and I think you were referring to overall economic activity.
Direct spending, yes.
All right. I feel like you're clear on that, but I hear sometimes people think Metro makes $20 billion off.
No, not my implication. But
All right. Thank you. Councilman Roten.
Thank you, Chair. Butch, I guess my question is more of a general East Bank vision. The Convention and Visitors Corporation, obviously you see the stadium, and that's good for bringing folks to downtown. As far as the Convention and Visitors Corporation, what do y'all see the East Bank looking like in the future? I know a lot of folks are wanting affordable housing, more of a community type atmosphere. when you see the stadium, it looks more like something that would be in a community, not necessarily a big, massive stadium. So when you're thinking about from your position, what do you see the East Bank looking like? Because I know, just to be quite honest, over the last 20 years, kind of what y'all wanted downtown has kind of come to fruition. Is that going to continue over on the East Bank, or are you going to, do you think that'll be more of a neighborhood that y'all want to get involved in as much? Thank you for the answer.
Thanks for the question. I probably have to speak more from myself, but my vision would be it's another unique neighborhood for Nashville, first and foremost. So I firmly believe and support that. Downtown needs to grow, whether it's considered an extension of the downtown neighborhood or its own. It needs to be a neighborhood. What I would hope, and my vision with that would be, with the, I'm going to call it the green space promenade, that we would design it so that we could accommodate, let's use Super Bowl, and maybe it's the Titans are in a Super Bowl somewhere else, and we can have a watch party there for the community. We could do some events on that lawn that it's designed to handle it, designed to handle the ingress and egress, and the community, local and visitor. But I don't see it as a live music neighborhood. I see it as a neighborhood that happens to have an enclosed stadium that gives us the opportunity to do some things and show off our newest neighborhood. So it's not a takeover at all.
No, and that's not what I was I was just thinking, just from y'all's perspective, would y'all like to see 50, 60-story hotels on that side of the river? Or, I mean, just being honest.
I don't want to see any hotel. But, I know there's some hotels interested, and there will be some. But I think there'll be more business travel hotels than they would be some 500-600 room hotel. Be 200 or 300 room. But no, I yearn for a normal neighborhood in the area.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks.
Councilmember Gamble.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned, thank you for being here. You mentioned the $34 billion in new revenue by 2051, and I think it was just clarified that that's
Spending,
okay.
yes.
And you also mentioned the willingness to contribute $10 million to infrastructure. Have there been any conversations or discussions on having a designated revenue stream out of the projected revenue that we're expecting to go towards transportation, particularly expanding our transportation? And have there been any regional discussions with our neighbors in Montgomery County, Williamson County, and other counties about designating a revenue stream to address our regional transportation needs as well?
So it's a little above my pay grade, so let me start there. Over the years, we have approached our regional neighbors and had this conversation. It's obvious we have not had much luck or success in getting there. To my knowledge, nobody has talked about a revenue stream in this regard right now for the East Bank, but it's a worthwhile conversation to see. I think first we got to make sure we can pay the bonds, and then we can look at what are the other things tied to the stadium that we can do. But we've got to solve that problem, and we all have to get over wanting our own car parked at the front door. I'm guilty.
I only say that because that is another issue that we have neglected and not invested in, and perhaps that is something that could be included in this discussion that would be a benefit to the community and the citizens in our city.
I agree, and
Thank you.
We've made several runs at it. The public has turned us down, but I think we got to do a better job of communicating the need, the plan, and kind of the time that it's going to take. It's a hard thing to explain, and nobody cares until they're stuck in traffic.
Councilmember Gamble, I would, that's a good question, and I would love to get it in our list so it can go online. If you wouldn't mind emailing Danielle about that. I think the answer will end up being that per state law that authorizes revenue streams, that there's no practical way to use any of these revenue streams for transit type things, at least certainly not outside the 130 acres or whatever it is. But I think we should get an official answer to that and have it posted online. And anybody else? Councilmember Benedict.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing me to ask a question since I'm not on this committee. I just wanted to clarify one thing. We talked, Mr. Spearden, you referenced the J.W. Marriott property and taxes. I wanted to just go back and look and see what's happening with our tax bills, and I pulled that one up. There's five owners related or on that street address. However, there's only one that's in the many millions. And I'm looking back, in the past 2 years, it's been just a hair over $2 million of taxes paid. In 2021, it was $3.4 million. In 2020, it was $2.5 million. So the taxes have actually gone down on that property. And before that, it was $1.6 million.
I don't assess them.
I'm going back to 2019. Just the improved value really hasn't. We're giving money back. Yes, some of it has to do with assessment, but I'm saying the improved value of the land is not generating more than what it was going back to 2018.
If I can.
So I'm not sure when construction began and when that assessment was done, but I believe it was far after 2018. So,
in my analogy or example was based on what it was generating when it might have been Methodist Publishing, but what was there before wasn't generating much at all. I don't know. You can look.
And it's gone down in half is what my point there, or not quite half, but my point there is just to make sure that we're looking at real facts all the way around. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? I've got just one more. You mentioned a couple times, and I just want to, somebody, not a council member, a citizen texted me the question, so I'll ask it for that person. You mentioned a couple times about the industry taxing itself. Mm-hmm. Can you explain more about what that means?
Sure. Every retail business pays sales tax, pays property tax, but only the hotel industry, and it started in the 70s. We wanted to create marketing, so we went to the state and passed a specific hotel tax, hotel occupancy tax, and I think it started at 1 or 2%. It's grown over the years, but we always said we want to help the city, but we also want to be able to market our product. And the idea was we're taxing visitors, so they're helping us pay for police, fire, schools. But, I don't know of another business in the city or industry in the city that has said tax us and put our money to work to grow the pie. And I hope I'm explaining that, but it's a industry-led self-imposed tax passed through the state, enabled by the council, and has worked pretty well. It's a model that has worked.
All right, thanks for adding a little more context for that. I appreciate it. Any other questions, council members? All right, thank you very much for being here today, and
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And then you're welcome to stay there, move, leave, as we're going to pick up the conversation we started at the beginning about what we might do after. No offense taken. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. So going back to your question, Councilman Druffel, since in the last hour, I jotted down the 3 things that I've heard from people that they would maybe like to hear more about. I'm not saying we should, I'm just saying these are the 3 things I've heard. One is the question I asked about how the heck do we keep the unlivability of downtown on this side of the river. That's one thing that I've heard. And I was glad to hear Mr. Spearden talk about the idea of trying to actively get some rules in place as we pass legislation. I think that's a good idea. Two is there's been some talk about grass versus turf in the stadium. I don't know that I have a dog in that hunt at all, but I've heard people ask about that question. And then Councilmember Evans, the last time we met, asked whether the committee was going to talk about the interaction of the cost to provide fire, schools, garbage, police, et cetera, for a new neighborhood versus property taxes, if some of the property taxes get used to build the neighborhood, and how all that interacts. And like with what Councilmember Gamble asked, I asked that she submit the question. So those are the three things I've heard that people, I don't know whether it's one person each wants to talk about them or everybody, I don't know. We'll get to that, I guess, in a couple weeks. Let me just ask you to talk a little bit more about what you're thinking about as far as when you're talking about an output.
Yeah, I think it's the economic components. As you know, I think that my constituents don't understand that we might be in this at some point, at least $290 million. I think validating that information or what we know to be true is an important aspect of what we're doing. And I like to think that we all walk away with the same lens of where the financial situation is and how we perceive it. There might be different views of that, but I think that's an important aspect of sort of the sense of level of confidence. And I think you intimated to that when we first started is we want our constituents, and I think the mayor's office wants constituents to have a very robust conversation so that we have that foundation that it's all agreed. It's not like, oh, someone believes it over here, someone thinks this, that we walk away with a sign off that this is what we all believe to be true. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and let me offer just a quick response and then get, I'm sure other people have a thought about that. The meeting we had last Monday showed me that I'm not sure how many facts we can agree to without getting into advocacy. For example, I believe something, I could be wrong, I believe something, and that is that knowing the minimum cost to comply with the current lease with some, at least within $100 million or so, is important to the analysis. I know there are council members on the committee that have expressed that it's not important to the analysis. So if we were coming up with, an output, I'm like, do we include that? What do we say about it when we've got not necessarily even full agreement about whether it matters or getting within $100 million of it? So I wonder about that. And then the other thing that I wonder about is, I'm sure the council office, our director, is going to have a lengthy analysis when it gets to the finish line. So I don't know, other thoughts about.
Let me just follow up with that, and possibly this will all come to fruition a little bit more with 5 community meetings, because we're going to hear from the communities. These are the facts that I'm sort of hearing from is, hey, Druffel, what's this real story, right? And so, and even to the point is, this perspective is this perspective is this. At least we have factual perspectives, if that's the best way to define it. So I think this is probably an earlier conversation, but I just wanted to tee it up a little bit to say that's a little bit what I'm hearing from my constituents. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll probably hear a little bit more of what their priorities are. But anyhow, I just want to tee that up.
Thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you. I think part of the way that I've sort of rationalized where we are is going backwards. Instead of saying, well, here's what this renovation is going to cost and it's just so crazy. Going backwards and saying, what can we afford, right? If we're in a situation where, forget building the new stadium, but we have to do something. What dollar amount is it that we can reasonably take bonds out and reasonably, with the revenue streams that we have, pay for that without impacting the taxpayer in a negative way? And so my thought process, just really quick and dirty, was, well, we're already looking at $760 million. If you take away the hotel occupancy tax, which accounts for $20 million each year, which is about a third of our debt service each year. So take a third out of that 700. That gets you to about $500 million. Out of that $500 million, what can we pay for, right? Because the sales tax revenue is not going to be very much, if any at all, with the area sales tax at that 50%, because we're not going to be able to develop really anything, and you get no sales tax off of asphalt. And so my thought process is just going backwards, unless and until we could get a renovation cost of, I mean, Kelly, this is probably more you. Is it $200 million? Is it $300 million? Is it $400 million?
We might share a brain, because in the most recent set of questions we got from council, I guess it was Friday, I think it was question 2, kind of sort of asked that question, and I was starting to look at it that way, and that was kind of the response I was drafting. Let's stop thinking about 2.1 versus 1.8, but what can we actually do? So I've been putting that together, and that was what I was going to try and present in our responses on Friday. So I think that will scratch that itch, but obviously if there's follow-up that comes from that, I think that's right.
But are we in that range of 400 million?
Ish, yeah.
Ish,
But that doesn't contemplate, so I wish it were as easy as it's 760 and a third of it is.
Right, I know, it's not, but
760 is really $1.5 billion by the time you have interest
Right.
and everything. So it's a little more complicated, but it's in that ballpark that regardless of what you believe is the appropriate project,
Right.
here's what we've got. And then, if you want to do the exercise of taking off, a pedestrian area, you're still really far away from solving.
Yeah, so one of the things that I got out of the VSG report, and we can talk about whether that was appropriate or not, but one of the things that came out of it that I thought was helpful was the enabling projects cost, because that was what, 257? It was 200 and something. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was like $257 million.
I had 275 in my head.
275, okay.
I might be being dyslexic. One of us is being dyslexic.
Either way.
Yeah.
That right there to me was about our max in my mind, of quick and dirty math of what we could probably sustain and not have to, kill the taxpayer, right? That doesn't get to the actual renovation. That just gets to the really not fun part of plumbing and electrical, or, those enabling projects that you have to do before you can even get into the really upgrade kind of stuff. So I think it's probably helpful. I think the answer to that question is going to be really helpful, because then it just shows how are we, then on top of it, we still owe them $32 million for the previous maintenance that they've paid for. We still have $30 million outstanding on the existing thing. So it just shows how far off we are. So who cares if it's $1.8 billion or $1.2 billion or $900 million? We can't afford it, period.
Yeah, so I started that way too. If I were doing this from scratch, it would have been an affordability analysis. But then I thought, we're going to be so far off, I'm going to call it a capacity analysis. So what I'm structuring, no coverage, it's never a deal I would bring you, but it's literally squeezing everything I can out of these dollars. What does that look like? It's going to be a backstop. All the things you hate, but I wanted to be really transparent. Like, this is squeezing the lemon number. And there's some growth. Like, we didn't assume, but we didn't go wild.
I don't mind sharing a brain with you, by the way.
Good, thank you.
Just especially if that's happening anyway with an answer, the thing that I would want blended into that is assuming that that is right, that the innate capacity to do stuff is rounded to $300 million. After we build a new stadium scenario, like we magically make it be no impact on taxpayers. Like for the sake of argument, we'll magically assume that it's no impact on taxpayers. We're still going to do some unknown, apparently hundreds of millions of dollars worth of GO bond issuance for the immediate area around it. So like that is happening. That amount is happening under either scenario also, and this is where, from when I, like, setting aside back of the envelope, the fact of the matter is we don't know what the minimum due under the lease is. We could argue about whether it matters, but we don't know that number. We don't know what the intended size of the capital repair reserve fund is. We don't know any costs associated with the Stadium Village. We don't know the cost of the campus infrastructure that's intended. And for me, I just can't weigh the scales with so many numbers being unknown. And to me, we're sort of getting the horse in front of the cart a little bit, which I don't mean to do. The question is whether we want to have the committee work toward coming up with a deliverable for the council or not is the question. And I see Kevin's hand. Kevin?
And Bob, I was thinking about this too. I was going to wait until this committee was through, and I'd talked before about that with Finance Department, whether they were going to give us a written report on the things that they see, or do we want them to come in front of Finance after all this is over and give us a presentation, sit them down for an hour, 2 hours one day, let the whole council come in, have a presentation in front of us. I just don't know what they want to do, or kind of what the council wants. But I'm just trying to look forward, and like all the questions that are being asked here about the numbers, I'd like us all to have a sit down with paper in front of us with numbers written down that we can all look at and say, okay, here's where we are.
Right. And this, I totally agree. And I think, like, there's only 2, 4, 6, 7 of us or whatever here. And so.
3 from the committee. I mean, there's only 3 from the committee today.
But I think fundamentally, both on the things, that list of, how do we deal with the downtown stuff, which is keeping on one side of the river, super important. The interaction of operating costs for the neighborhood, will it pay for itself, quote unquote, super important. What we're talking about now is super important. Like fundamentally, as a body, sometime in December, we're going to decide we want to talk about that stuff before we approve a term sheet, or we're going to, as a body, decide to approve a term sheet and figure it out before we get the final documents. And we, in December 6th and December 20, we'll tell that for sure. Maybe we would, all the people all the non-committee members who've been coming to every single one of these are sort of ad hoc committee members at this point, ad hoc members to the ad hoc committee. Maybe, especially by the time we get to the meeting we got scheduled on December 14, maybe we should have a recommendation that we want to talk about that stuff before a term sheet, or if people want to approve a term sheet and talk about it later, we'll do that. But I think all those things have to be talked about. And sometime after Thanksgiving, we're going to quickly come up on, does the body want to talk about them before or after? Because we're going to run out of time in December. Every day that we don't have scheduled, the Fair Board is about to schedule for a racetrack in December. I'm not exaggerating. Every Monday through Thursday that's not taken for this committee or a council meeting is about to be taken by a Fair Board meeting. So we're not going to be able to schedule more stuff, whether it's a special committee, special meeting of Budget and Finance, or of this committee between now and when we get to Christmas. Well, so that's all going to be food for thought. All right. So Monday, East High, hopefully as many of you can make it as possible to hear what the public has to say. And thanks a lot, everybody, for contributing so much. Appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry. Tomorrow we have a meeting. Jesus. Tomorrow, 4:30, we have a meeting in addition to Monday. Thank you very much. Good Lord.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.